was like our Father, and who is like our Mother, who is everything that we can perceive and everything that we cannot perceive, who is everything yet is no thing, who comes to us in the form of the natural Ra, who is the light of the heavens, light of the inner planes, as well as the light of our lives, who shines the light for us on the path of Ma'ati, which is the path of truth, justice, righteousness, and harmonious balance, who comes to us in the form of the light of vitality, giving us the strength and the endurance to live and act upon that which we know to be true. Homage to you, the one who shines in and through us as a beacon of light for those who are blind to the fact of their place, their position, and their responsibilities in the divine scheme of things. May we be Ma'akiru, true of thought, word, and deed, to our highest reality, and in our moments of crises, in the dark nights of the soul, when it appears that everyone and everything else has let us down. So it is, and so shall it be. Amen. Ma'at. Ma'akiru. 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 MC, do it. Be on the way.
Be on the way.
How's the mic sound? Does it sound too blastery? So, the great falcon is officially back in the nest. So let us be grateful and have gratitude for these opportunities to share space, because we saw in the past few years it doesn't always have to be so, right? And this is the online people over here? All right, okay. So the online people, we ain't forget about y'all, the I Bet family. So y'all know the protocols. Sign in where you're from. Let's get the energy back. Always remember KEM. Keep energy moving. Keep the energy up and keep the energy moving. So to start off on a positive note, I want to say everyone sounded very powerful with the Hesse and the heck out today, and with some high frequency things going on. So unfortunately, we're going to be talking about shadow work and all this, right? So today's topic is going to be called Shadow Work in the Theatrics of Consciousness. But before I get into all of that, I want to give all respect due, because it's been about 2 months since I spoke up here. So I want to give respect to Wildner Judy Roth for his insight and his wisdom. I want to give respect to our own Hemet Netter. She spoke twice. I want to give respect to Sister Shet Armenkow. And we capped it off with our Webet Ma'akr. With Ma'akr. Webet Ma'akr. So those people online, we have tiers in our community. We have the leadership. Then we have our Sidru, which is our priest and our council. Then we have our royal court, which is our ambassadors between the people and the leadership. And I teach all the Sidru and the royal court to always have a communion in deck, because you never know when your time could be to speak up here spontaneously. So you what's that saying? Always stay ready for what? So while the others are gassing out and passing out, they need to get it. Or is it now electric? Because the world's on a new metric. I'm rolling in the bars, right? That's coming from a song called A New World. It'll be coming tuned to somebody's digital space near you in the next 6 months. But yeah, so let us take a moment to celebrate who we are, what it is that we do, and what it is that we share, because you'll have some in the community to lead you to believe that we're not doing enough. When in fact, the fact of the situation is there's always many layers to what it is that we teach in here. The Temple of Anu teaches the wise application to what everybody else in the community is talking about. And it's necessary talk, so we're just doing a constructive criticism. Every time we get up here and every time we speak is always a constructive criticism about our current circumstance. So In the other social media platforms, everybody is about the speed of data. Get the information out, get the information out. And there's this preoccupation with getting the information to the youth or the kids. There's nothing wrong with that. But have you noticed this preoccupation of so-called reaching the youth, not even the kids, they say the youth, I guess the millennials or whatever that generation is called. Are they still called millennials? What's the one under them? Gen Z. So now, the thing with that is, have you noticed that people feel like in order to reach the millennials or the Gen Z, they have to suspend their good character? It's almost they want to lead with their flaws. And that causes a lot of psychological as well as emotional collateral damage that goes on in our community that comes with this fast rate of data and information that goes on, because speed is connected to youth or associated with youth. It's attractive, it's sexy. The young ones are witty, they get the information and they can spit it back, because we're finally in the time where it's cool to be conscious, right? They call it woke. We call the old school cats call it consciousness. And consciousness and this woke thing is still two different things, but I'd rather people be woke than not. So we're still just talking about two levels of consciousness. So they're getting the information, but the character is not quite there. So they're sharp, their memory sharp, they're witty. But we want to talk about wisdom. Wisdom is not always attractive. Wisdom is not always sexy to people, but wisdom comes what they call, in the colloquial language, game. With wisdom comes game, not playing games, but games talking about the psychological application of the principles. That's why wisdom usually comes with age, a lot of trial and error. So why do I periodically step back from speaking? So I can engage actively in some shadow work. Now, shadow work is not popular in the spiritual community because everybody thinks that shadow work is all light and love. And it is. But that's only half the equation. And if you want to just deal with half the equation, then you're not being authentic. So there's a Kemetic proverb that said, the higher the light shines, the smaller the shadow it casts. So that's letting us know that no matter where you're at on the path, you're going to have that shadow. So our job on this path is to keep that shadow low. It's always, as long as we're here on the physical plane, we're going to have some shadows to deal with. So no one is exempt from that. So when I step back, I do that. Just so you know, other people who don't know what shadow work is, it's dealing with the incongruent parts of yourself. It's talking about when you're energetically rough around the edges. For example, somebody could be like, why are you so mean? And you get all defensive. I'm not mean. And another person be like, oh, you so mean. I'm not mean. Another person, I don't deal with you because you kind of got a mean spirit. One time is an incident. 2 times is a coincidence. 3 times is the beginning of a pattern. So shadow work is be like, okay, people keep saying that. I can't keep denying it. I'm the common denominator in that conversation. So you have to pull back and realize, you're like, okay, am I angry? So in your meditations, you have to realize, oh, actually, I'm not angry. It's certain. I understand that I have certain triggers. And when these conscious or unconscious triggers, and when these things are triggered, I get defensive about my honor. And people interpret my defensiveness about my honor as anger. And that's the thing that might be off-putting to other people. So no, I'm not angry. I just got to deal with my feelings about when I feel like my honor is under attack. That's how shadow work is. Dealing with the incongruent parts of yourself when it's not all good, when you're being totally honest with yourself that you don't got it all together. And it's okay, because the higher the light, the smaller the shadow. So no matter where you're at on this path, you're going to have some shadow work to deal with or process. So part of my shadow work is dealing with the fact that I really don't like public speaking. Yeah, I really don't like it. But a lot of people like to hear me publicly speak, but I actually hate, I hate to use the word hate, but I loathe it. So what is the resolution? So it's so serious with me that I have to actually strategically plot when and where I go to events, because I hate being put on the spot. You know, the conscious community, oh, then sit here, we're gonna get him to speak. And, you know, they try to make you a featured speaker and you come in just a chip. It happened to us a couple months ago. Was the Wakanda event in Newark? You know, we went in there, the Temple of Anu came in, royal family, we all decked out. I guess what else was supposed to happen? You come in looking royal, they be like, hey, you know, put them on us and we chilling. They put us in the table at the front of the event, we chilling, and somebody come put their hands on my shoulder. You know, we'd like to know if you would bless us with elevation. I'm like, come on, man. We're chilling. This is supposed to be your event. So naturally, I was with the royal court, so I had him do it. That's influence. That's the resolution. So I can know what the event is about, so I can have thoughts. So I don't want a mic put in my face like, what you think about such and such? So anyway, so you still with me? I had Armin Cow, I had Minsu, we had somebody. So the resolution to me is sometimes if I come in here, that's why I ask my royal court in the Siru, have one communion in the chamber, because I might just not be in that space to want to do that. Sometimes I just have to work through some things. Sometimes I just got to live my life so I can have some fresh new things to talk about also. Because you don't want to just get stuck in a rut of talking about the same old thing. Sometimes there's some life that needs to be lived. Part 2 of my shadow work is, as much as I love spirituality and the teachings of spirituality, sometimes I just don't like people. Remember, I'm a Cancer, so I'll be in my shell. I come from this deep place, this deep well in my heart, the Ab. Can y'all say the Ab? Ab, the deep well. And it takes a lot for me to come up out of that space. I believe that's why my voice is so deep, because I stay in this deep center. And it takes a lot for me to come out and share. So what I don't like about people, I don't like dependency. I don't like people depending on me for things that I feel like they could do. Kind of like what happened at that event. I think like you threw an event and you didn't know who was going to do libation. Or at least give me a call and be like, I know y'all coming, would you mind doing libation? So when you get involved in something, you should know the laws and the protocols of what it is, this thing that you're doing. So I don't like that pull on my energy. So another thing is my pet peeves with communion and the community. Now, this thing that we do in here is very sacred. Anybody know the Mennonite word for sacred? You know? Jashir. Everybody say that? Jashir. It means to set apart. So when we're dealing with something sacred, you're supposed to set it apart from your everyday situation. So there's a lot of work that goes into creating this space and this experience for you all. And the royal court commits, the Saru commits, the leadership commit, members of our community commit, and we do this for the world. So it becomes an issue when there's not a reciprocation of the energy that we're putting out to the community. Mind you, most of us don't even live in this community. People are coming from out of state, out of town. People are coming from hours away to come to this community to offer it to this community as well as the rest of the world. So I find it frustrating that people want to think I don't have the right to be frustrated. They want me to have God levels of forgiveness. And I just want to remind people that I know I look like him, but I'm not Jesus. Now we find out that people don't even believe in God. They like, God is some type of benevolent being. People are like, it's a goddess or whatever. God or God is some type of benevolent being that they feel that has supposed to have infinite level of patience no matter how much you mess up. So anybody that's claiming a high level of spirituality, they project that onto you. You can't ever get frustrated with the people. You just have to eat it. You have to accept it. So that's part of my shadow work. So part of my resolution with that is what I've come to realize after all these years that a lot of people more than not don't even believe in any of this stuff. They don't believe in true spirituality. Some people are here for the association of tribe. Some people like the dress. They like the exoticness of the language. They have similar beliefs, but upon deeper investigation, you find out a lot of people's personal beliefs are not even congruent with the Kemetic legacy. Some people are just around just for access to the resources, or whatever they think the resources is, whether it's finances or whether it's people in jobs and opportunity. So here it is, we're pushing this serious spiritual message to people that's really more into just nationalism and community building. And there's nothing wrong with that either, but you just need to know what it is that you're signing on for. So the resolution is I just continue doing what it is that I do and just understand I reciprocate that energy. People, because of the participation, the lack of participation, energetically you've decided that this is the level that you are comfortable with. So I don't push it past what it is that you're not ready for. So that's my resolution. Those are just some examples of shadow work. So in this spiritual path, you have to have courage. You have to be brutally honest with yourself, because some people, when they don't want to do the shadow work, they quit. They run, they hide. They're not always out of the game, but they quit, they run, they hide. But I'm not in a position where I can quit, run, and hide. But I've got enough time in the game where I have influence, and I can just be like, I'm gonna need you to do communion. So I'm still in the room. I'm still present. Kind of like how Ra is with the Netter. You don't really find stories of Ra coming from the heavens doing the work. All Netter are representations of Ra. Y'all know Sekhmet's name is Sekhmet Ra. It's not just Sekhmet, it's Sekhmet Ra. So all of them are expressions or manifestations of Ra. That's how it works with the leaderships and the priests. So if the priest can't do it, we got to check with the royal court. The royal court can't do it, you got to check with the initiates. It's levels. Part two of why sometimes I fall back, because I can. Simply as that. Because I'm not the smartest one in the room. My Saru been rocking with me over 10 years. And they're smart also, and they have some thoughts. So sometimes we have to demonstrate to you all in the world that we're not a cult. And that other people have some thoughts, sacred thoughts about this legacy also. But in 2022, people have spoken so poorly about that walks into it and wears the dress, the accoutrement, has the receipts, walk in the power. And they made it very hard because all this slick talk about leadership. The talk against leadership, watch this, to talk against the idea of leadership is to energetically and psychologically neuter us as a people.
Psychologically do what?
Neuter. Bring it back. To talk against the idea of leadership is to energetically and psychologically neuter us as a people. We probably lost 20 people online right there. Intuitively, do you understand that? Do you feel that? Now, when we're talking about our legacy, when you're talking about the Kemetic legacy, the Kemetic legacy, you're not talking about the lives of the regular people. Most of the time, you're studying the lives of kings and queens, right? So here it is. So you have the Nasut and the Nasutet, or the Hemet, Netter, Waret. Then after that, you have the Jati. That's the vice regent. Leadership titles, right? So where do people get this thing about no leadership from? And claiming to be Kemetic. So you have the Nasut, you have the Jati. Jati is the vice president, for lack of better words, co-regent. After that, you have the various Nebu, masters. You have the Rekit, sages. Then you have the Sinurt, the elders. Then you have the remesh, which consists of abet, which consists of families. Families have children. Now here we go. So the children follow who? The parents. The parents follow who? The elders. The elders follow who? The rekit. The nebu. The nebu follows who? The jati. The jati follows who? The nasit and the queen. The nasit and the queen follows who? The netter, the netteru. So this whole dichotomy of leadership and following is all up in our culture. Is it making any sense? So we didn't just wake up and just decide we need to build pyramids and structures. That took leadership, that took a charge. As long as we've been civilized, there's always been structure. As long as there's structure, there always has to be leadership. Even in the Haitian Revolution, you had Duddy Bookman, Toussaint Louverture. Who else? What are the names? So now, those are leaders. Not in a political sense. Nobody voted them. There was something special about these individuals that they be like, yo, I'm rolling with you. Whenever you say it's time, it's time. So yeah, there was the Haitian Revolution. The people did it, but it was under the leadership of many individuals. So over here in the States, who do we have? Nat Turner, Harriet Tubman. Over here in the States? Martin Delaney. Those names stand out because they're leaders. They were distinguished from the rest of the people. And there's nothing wrong with the rest of the people. It's just in the psyche of the people that needs to be done. Even weak leadership is better than no leadership. Even ineffective leadership is better than no leadership. Because with leadership, certain standards and order will always be upheld, irregardless of the so-called selfishness or narcissism of said leader. There's still always rules and standards that you can always hold that person to. And that's always better than nothing. No leadership equals apathy, despondence, confusion, and it leaves you in a position where you're still doing that waiting for a savior thing. So you can't be waiting for a savior then against leadership at the same time. So that waiting for the savior thing came from Christianity. That's not part of our culture. Our culture always had leadership, instituted leadership. Even in rites of passage, they get the teenagers to lead the younger ones under there. It's not even adults, so-called official adults, 40s, 50s and stuff, teaching the kids. It's the teenagers teaching the adolescents till they become. So it's always a structure, a hierarchy. So what I noticed, so when Judy X spoke, and then him at X spoke, then Armin Cow had spoke, and then Maakra had spoke. Then I go online and I watched and I saw the leadership, I saw the viewership drop significantly. We look online, the viewership dropped significantly. But I thought our people said we don't need leaders. Because what happened in people's psyches, like, yeah, but Judy was cool, yeah, he was dropping some stuff. Yo, Himette dropped the bomb. Oh, she spoke again. Oh, Himette and Judy's good for off the top of the head. And then he saw Armin County, like, okay, the elder spoke, and such. Then it's like when it came to Maakra report, Maakra is just like, okay, goddamn, what's up with this set? It's been like 2 months. Even though they're preaching from the same, teaching from the same text that I teach, echoing the same thoughts. Something in people's psyche want to know ways to do that or to do that. Who has that it factor? This is what we've been in denial of. Even with social media, who goes on social media fast? Maybe you pull back for a while. You know, what did y'all think that meant? They said they thought that meant telling social media people about your fast. So I mean, pulling back from social media, who does that periodically? You gotta leave it alone. When? Why is that? Too much, too many voices, right? Too much time, too many voices. Too many voices, too many opinions, right? It starts becoming overwhelming. Because intuitively you be like, okay, but who has the authority to bring it all and make it all make sense? That's what's going on in the back of your mind. Even as powerful as you say you are, there's a lot of profound stuff out there. A lot of people saying some profound things, articulating some things, breaking some things down, and it just becomes too much. So people talk against leadership, but then they get all excited about a movie called The Woman King. Remember, it's in the psyche. And those things are based on a true event. Remember I said, poor leadership is better than no leadership. Ineffective leadership is better than no leadership. I can't even think of the word. Different leadership is better than no leadership. Unconventional, that's the word. Unconventional leadership is better than no leadership. So the idea of a woman king was considered unconventional. But guess what? It needed to be done. So when you saw it in commercials and then your adrenaline pop up, you're like, oh, John, what's this? The sisters stepped up. It was about leadership. It was about ineffective leadership, getting up out of here and putting in place effective leadership that brings whatever necessary shifts, changes, and transformations that were required at the time. We can have our feelings and opinions about whether these things are right or wrong, but the whole thing is about leadership is necessary. Why do the so-called enemy, why are they good with leadership? That's why they kicking our butt, because they got leadership, they got organization, and we up here on some other planet talking about we don't gotta have organization and we don't have to have leaders. That no leadership thing is not working out for us. So we don't need leaders, but then we get excited about Wakanda forever. And what was that about? It was about the dying of a leader. And what were they going to do to fill that spot? Because the crisis was on. Once again, unconventional leadership. A woman stepped in that. His sister stepped in it, right? Because it was necessary. Strong leaders is necessary. So since we talk about movies, X-Men, who's the leader of the X-Men? Professor X. Avengers, who's the leader?
Captain America.
No, Iron Man, right? Tony Stark. Justice League.
Superman.
I thought it was Batman. The point is, they got. Y'all be watching the white folk. Who's the black cartoon guy?
That's the Maru right there.
So point is leadership, even on the other side. So they know about leadership. They know. So it was leadership. It takes leadership to even organize powerful people. That's what the superhero thing is. Everybody could be outfit up, but we got to still show some type of uniformity at some point or another, right? I was watching Baba Haru. He did 2 powerful interviews in the last 2 weeks. He was in rare form. And big up to Baba Haru if you're online listening. He gave us props over here. He always speaks highly of us when he gets put on these platforms. And it's always refreshing to hear Baba Haru. It's always refreshing to hear his perspective because I keep my pulse of what's going on out in the community. It's a lot of voices, a lot of scholars. They got the linguists. Remember, it's this new young generation that lead with their faults, that leads with their bad character. So it's good to hear intellectual jousting. It's good to give the so-called white supremacy a metaphoric black eye with the information. But they always still skim around the surface about what it is how it is that we're really supposed to empower ourselves. So we hear Baba Haru, he comes and breaks it down. You listen to Infidisi, that's my teacher. He comes and breaks it down. Infidisi will talk about the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, the crystal kingdom, and he'll talk about metal netting, symptomatic thinking, another level than these other people that's just giving data. Then you have Minister Louis Farrakhan. He has the same talking points as the rest of the Nation of Islam, but he comes from a total different place with pours forth from his mouth. Would y'all agree? Then you have Baba, Professor James Small. Y'all heard of him? One of our esteemed scholars. He's very knowledgeable in the Kemetic legacy, but his particular system is voodoo or Vodun. When you hear him, he's not just talking scholarship. He's coming from that deep well of wisdom. Do y'all know the Mennonite word for servant?
Let's follow.
Let's follow.
Correct. Chimsu is follow. Servant is him. Him. All right. Y'all embarrassing me online. So what is that glyph?
Like the bat. Looks like a bat. But it's actually one of those.
Okay, that's one. One is the well, also the well of water. The well of water is to come from a deep place. So what am I getting at? So what's the difference between Baba Hero and the scholars and the linguists and stuff like that? Because technically, Baba is a consummate scholar in his own right. He can hang with the rest of them. He could teach them a thing or two. When Baba start rolling them R's and stuff, Mike Cowley, you're doing that thing. If you're taking it to another level, he could show you a thing or two. He's a consummate scholar, but Baba is a mystic. Infidisi is a mystic. Professor Small is a mystic. Farrakhan is a mystic. Mystics deal with energy. Mystics deal with how to access what they call that? The new language they're using, the quantum field. The quantum field is the source energy. We're still talking spirituality. So here our elders are talking about tapping the source energy. And all the elders really care about is, did you go back to Mama yet? Mama is the noon net, the waters, the deep waters. Did you go back to Mama yet? And what did you bring back that maybe I can learn something from? Now, mind you, all of us have the ability to go back to Mama. We got the ability to tap the water and bring some things back. But it doesn't mean just because you close your eyes and meditate that you brought back something legit. Because it still needs to stand trial and error. That's why all the individuals that I mentioned are elders, 60 plus. So can the young do it? Yeah, the young can do it, but often times they get lost in trying to go too fast. I've seen young men younger than me, 30s and under, literally lose their mind because they got too much information that they weren't able to process, and they found themselves psychologically imbalanced, or their reputation, their reputation is in shambles from it because they couldn't apply it as wisdom. Now, for the new people, some people don't know the evolution of communion. One person a few months ago, they said they liked communion back in the day. And I said, why is that? They said it was more spiritual. So naturally that activates my ego. I'm like, what you talking about? Like, everything I say is spiritual. But I understood what they were saying. There's many moving parts when anybody gets up here and speaking communion, there's many moving parts. Back in the day, I did all the teaching, I did all the leading of the ceremony, I did all the books, the accounting, I did everything. And people got used to that intimate relationship. This is before we were online. So the people online is, you're privileged to be able to experience somewhat being in the room with us. So there was a time when this wasn't, matter of fact, that was just like 2018, right? That we, like right before COVID, that we put it online. Y'all know Sia, Sister Sinette Sia? Communion was her idea. Before we used to just be meeting at people's houses and, I was teaching and she was saying, we need something more. And she said, we need something like church. And I thought, like how I was brought into the legacy, study groups was the thing. Think tanks was the thing. And that's what they was teaching was better. The elders before me said that was better than church. So it was offensive in our time to make any correlation between African spirituality and church. They get mad at you. So I didn't get mad, I listened, but she said, hey, we need more fellowship. So that sparked the seed of this whole experience, and they just kept evolving over the course of time. Then y'all know we used to go to Coney Island and do the Ancestor Day, right? There was a female a woman elder. She seen me out there 2 years in a row. She said, we need to see more of you. 2 years in a row. We need to see more of you, brother. And I'm like, what you talking about? I'm outside. I'm at Coney Island. All the other people online just talking about African spirituality, they not out here doing the work. They not out here doing the ritual. They were talking. Then what do we do the next day? We go where? A Doom Day. So we in Staten Island, that's Coney Island on Saturday, and then we go out of state to Sunday. So we doing Yemaya one day, we do Oshun the next day, giving honor to our West African ancestors. For all of those who think we skip over our West African ancestors and go to straight to Kemet, and that's just that's patently false. So yeah, we're Kemetic by initiation, but when we start pouring and dropping that libation, everybody's involved in it. We call our ancestors, so-called FBA ancestors, our so-called indigenous ancestors, so-called West African ancestors. Everybody's invited when that libation, when the water touches that ground. We're grounded it all because we need it all, right? So there is no need to choose because all of it is based off of the forces of nature anyway. And the ancestors, they ain't been fed in so long, they be like, yo, I'll take it. I got lost in my thoughts. So then I come up with Baba Haru. Baba Haru said, we need to see you more. I'm just like, yo, what are they talking about? I'm out here. Then I get with Jabari and Anika, Shrine of my eye, and they be like, well, brother, we need to see you more. Like, all right. That's when he broke it down. He's like, y'all should do your communions live. And with this church thing, a lot of people think, oh, all the people in the church, all they do is sit and sing together, sing songs together and feel good. And my thing is like, what's wrong with feeling good? If you don't feel good about who you are and what it is that you do, whatever that thing you're doing is not going to feed you and you're not going to go far with it. Our ancestors are specialists in feeling good about who we are and what it is that we do. Someone online made a joke about us having a revival. They saw us at Weapon Pet with the tent up and stuff, and somebody made a cheap shot. They're like, them Negroes, just like Christians, they got the church tent and everything. And I was like, yo, it was 102 degrees. That was the responsible thing to do. And far as revival, what does revival mean?
To regenerate.
To bring life, to rejuvenate. Did that start with Christians? Are Christians the only one that praise their God and their ancestors? Because they do have ancestors, Abraham, Jesus, and they got all of those of their ancestors in that tradition. Every time, what is Wet Pet? The opening of the new year. Isn't that a renewal ceremony? What is the solstice? Isn't that a renewal ceremony? What is Hinek Ma'at that we do twice a year? Isn't that a renewal ceremony? So we use the word renewal, they use the word revival. Matter of fact, our whole movement that we do is called Saruj. And what is Saruj? Huh?
Reunification.
No, that's mine. It's mine. Saruj is to renew, to restore. So our whole movement is revival. So there's nothing for us to feel bad about being associated with a revival or something. The whole essence of African spirituality is about honoring cycles. It is the embodiment of revival. Because if you're not reviving and growing and renewing, you're dying. So when we get up here, when I speak, I'm speaking to the priests. You see the secret societies, they do the same thing. You know, when we watching a politician speaking, everybody be thinking they all deep. Oh, this is Illuminati. You see the sign he made, and he said such and such, and what that means is that's just what all societies that's organized do. Stop spooking them out, stop making them superheroes or whatever while we languish in disorganization and no leadership. There's always levels and layers. So there's the whole of African languages is a double, triple entendre, right? So a statue is never a statue, right? The Ankh has like 12 different meanings. Haru is a deity, but Haru also means day. Haru also means light. That's double, triple entendres and stuff. So the whole language, so when we're speaking, our language is always layers of understanding. So when I'm speaking, there's certain things the priests get, there's certain things the initiates get. Then we can't forget that there's initiate candidates in the room. Then we can't forget that there's guests in the room. Then we can't forget there's people online that never even came here. And so anytime that you're coming up here, you're fighting the ghosts and goblins of the conscious community. Meaning, they're looking at me like, so he the new preacher, he the new bishop, he the new pastor. Some people are disturbed by the rings on my finger because they think that's what pastors do. And I said, check out a picture of any African king, they brolicked up just like that. But they want to keep taking our power and saying that's somebody else's stuff and shaming us for walking in our power. Is he really teaching? You have certain people they're not interested in being part of a community. So us as initiates, sometimes we skirt this line of giving away initiatory information because people neg us. They be like, oh, y'all into some spookism, y'all worship a bunch of boogeyman, then we get in our ego, and then we spend the next month or two trying to prove to these fools that we ain't in the spookism. They be like, oh, I got them. Oh, that's what y'all teach today. Oh, now I didn't have to join to get it, and stuff like that. So what I'm saying is, since you became conscious, this is a question, since you became conscious, did you become who you always thought you were supposed to be? Is that not yet? There's a lot of angry energy in the conscious community. So what is this angry energy about? You got people that left the church, left the mosque, or whatever it is, because they thought that was required for them to walk in their power. Then they left and they found out that they didn't necessarily have no more power than the Christians that they thought that they left. You have people that when they left, because remember some people, they left, they be like, oh, I got to get out of the church, and once I get out of the church, my ancestors and the deities are going to embrace me, my life is going to be magical, and it's about to be crazy out here. When I look online, that's how people talk. I listen to the memes and stuff that people put up. They really think they're doing something by just not being Christian or Muslim. Then others, they get out of the Islam, get out of Christianity, then they get initiated into some traditional African systems, and some of the leadership in the African system got the same shenanigans as the nonsense that they experienced in the church and the mosque. And people are angry at that. You have certain people that got out of it and they be like, I'm atheist, all that is boogeyman stuff. And they mad that they ever believed in it. Then you got a portion of people that turn nationalists and they be like, oh, we don't need spiritual stuff. We need to get our money thing together. And they mad because that's how people do. They want to be so right that they just don't get out the situation. I'm just like, I don't want my joint messed up. So I turn with it. So she hit my door and we slide. And I'm like, damn, I got to turn off the lecture. She pulls her car off, her whole front end falls off, liquid out of everything. She's coming up to my truck. I got tents on my window. It's like a movie, the door open. I'm 6'3", I get up. And she's walking. You all right? You need me to call you the ambulance? Because I get up like, going on here, it's crazy. Looking at my truck. She's scared of me. I'm like, there's no need to call the ambulance, I'm fine. Watch how everything falls into place when we talk about energy. So 3 minutes later, the police show up. I didn't have to call the police. She didn't have to call the police. Police mosey up. A brother comes. He's like, damn, man, what's going on? And I said, I had the right of way, so I was in the right. I said, I thought I had the right of way. I said, I don't know what happened with her, but I tried to avoid it. You know how people get, they want to be right. She came out of nowhere. She ran. I don't know what was going on in her mind. I was being fair. I was being honest. I said, I thought I had the right of way. I shouldn't have had to watch out for getting sideswiped. So he went over, we dealt with her, he came back over. He was the most compassionate police officer I've ever met. I ain't got issues with the police. I have pleasant experiences with the police. He was like, damn, man, I'm sorry this happened to you. And I said, so what's next? He said, I wrote it up in the report just like you said. You had the right of way, she had the stop sign. That's what's going on in the report. That accident was at 9:30. I was home by 10 o'clock. So the whole interaction took 10 minutes. I was able to drive off. She couldn't. I got a dent and a scratch on the side. Her joint is total. I called my insurance. They tell me where to take the car to get assessment. They said, it's not your fault. We don't consider it your fault. They gave me almost $4,000 for my repair. And mind you, it's not total. It's still drivable. I just got a dent. They just didn't want to pay all this money. They gave me the money. So I'm walking away with money in my pocket. But check it out. The moral of the story is I didn't get hurt because vibration frequency. Remember, crossroads are vortexes, right? Vortexes pull energy from a certain amount of space in. I was thinking about, I tapped into Majudi's morphic field about his accident, got myself in an accident, but my thoughts were of love. Because remember, I'm still talking about how to help him. So I got protected. So when I got home, this is what I did. I wasn't disoriented. I wasn't even mad. I wasn't even bugging myself out. I'm like, hey, I'm supposed to be mad, or I'm supposed to be upset or shaken up. So just to check, using the tools, I got some sage. Because you might have trauma in your auric field. So I got some dragon blood sage, sage myself down. Followed it up with Sao Paulo to sweeten up, to harmonize the aura. Followed it up. I got some camphor oil, peppermint oil, rubbed my back. Because y'all know how it is. Yeah, I'm fine. Next day, oh, because he asked me, was I all right? I said, I think I'm okay, but you know how that is. And he said, yeah. So I went and doubled up what I know as a spiritualist to protect myself. So here I am 2 weeks later, $4,000 up, no injuries. So the key to the story is always try to stay in a positive frame, not because you're righteous or you're better than anybody else. Because sometimes when we have our ethics and we get into this ethical trolling, we're trying to be more righteous or right than the next person, when the metaphysics of ethics is safer for us to stay in a positive space than negative. So here was, I was thinking loving thoughts about him, so I was protected in this. So imagine if I was thinking harmful thoughts. So imagine if I was thinking some thoughts that wasn't beneficial to Majudi, and he got into a crossroads situation that could have brought him harm. So positive, uplifting thoughts always does everyone better. Y'all get it? So the theater of consciousness is this. Everything is an illusion. Everything is only half true. In the Hindu system, they call it lila. It means the divine play. It means we're a divine being having a human experience. So essentially being physical and spiritual at the same time, we talking about essentially being bipolar. So we have our moments when we feel like we're divine, and then we have our moments where we feel like we're victims. But that's all lila, that's all play. So our job is to try to stay in character. Stay in character, and characters are in plays, right? And we talk about having character. Character is, for us, is having a set of principles that we stick to no matter what's happening in our lives, whether good or bad. We're principled people. That's how you develop your character. So now we have to be characters in the play. So the divinities are telling, or we're living the mythology through our stories. But you have to stay in character, meaning can you stay in your divine place as a Tsar and get eviscerated by your brothers and sisters? And stay in character. Can you get crucified? When we talk about the world, 16 worlds crucified saviors, that's a saga, that's a myth that's permeating many cultures. Is that true? Can you be eviscerated and betrayed by your own? And are you really the chosen one? Can you really rejuvenate yourself? Or are you just talking? Y'all see how the myths play out? Can you stay in character? Didn't the Tsar come back from that and became the king or the Nasit of the Duat? So he was the king on earth, and he still was a king in the other world. So he recovered from it and still kept his dominion. That even the Netaru have to answer to him in the other world. So, or what about the flip on the story? Can you be all set? Can you tap in with your divine feminine? And when things fall apart, can you stay in character as you bring it all together? Or are you going to be crybaby and being the victim and throwing a tantrum with every little big piece you got to pull back together? Y'all see the significance of character? Or are you going to stay in character as Heru when you get your eye put out? When you're in spiritual darkness and you might have to go to an elder, you might have to go to a priest. Remember, everybody, oh, the answers is within. You don't got to listen to nobody. Sometimes that eye is out. And you might need an elder, you might need a priest, you might need a healer to get you right. So can you stay on character and be okay that it's okay to need somebody sometime? Can you stay in character and watch your life get set aflame? Like what Sekhmet had to do. In alchemy, that's called calcination. It means when everything got to crash and burn because it's meant to tame your ego. Can you stay focused? Can you stay centered when this is happening to you? We're all talking about staying in character. What about Mantu? Can you get into your masculine when it's time to establish and set order without rage, but with necessary aggression? Because remember, everybody, spirituality is all light and love, and sometimes you got to metaphorically take heads to set that order. Can you stay in character without rage but necessary aggression? So staying in character is relinquishing the victim model and handling everything as a divine being in the flesh. And that is the theater of consciousness, or the theatrics of consciousness. So I ended on that note. So let us stand up. Thank everybody for their time. So on the people online, if you got something out of the message, we appreciate your support, financial or other. We just appreciate you showing up. But never forget my eye, everything is reciprocation. So let us stand with the 90 degrees, left foot forward. Let us say Kemmunion Matep. Brothers right over left, sisters left over right. Maybe say Dianu, Uncle Jocelyn.
Dianu, Uncle Jocelyn.
Open up, give energy around the room. Withdraw the foot, bring it into the heart chakra. Ground out on the count of 3 and start with your right foot and ground it. Wa, Sanu, Shmet. All right.
One, two.